Good morning, everyone, to the meeting of the Richmond Yorks Area Committee. The first item on the agenda is the election of a chair. Are there any nominations, please?
Could I nominate Councillor Peacock?
Thank you. And is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I can't see anyone. Would members like to vote? And are there any against? And are there any abstentions? Thank you. Councillor Peacock.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for that. We've got an interesting agenda today, so I'll get on with it. I'll start with, there is first of all apologies for absence. I have Councillor Steve Watson. Have you anybody else, Nikki? There's just Councillor Parsons is having problem with his car, so he may be land later. On the other hand, he might not. So we'll give his apologies just in case. So election of vice chair. So I would like to nominate Councillor Dickinson. Have I any other nominations? So all those in favour of Councillor Dickinson? Any abstentions? No. So that's carried that Councillor Dickinson is the vice chair. The next item is minutes of the meeting. I should have it in front of me. Held on, I haven't got the date. On the 2nd of March. So we have just a few points to make on this. I'll go first. We had, since Stuart isn't here, he'd been asking that there could be something changed. Well, I'll read out what he said and then I'll read out the answer I've got. I asked the office as an executive member to confirm that these 4 schools have been offered the same solution as that offered to Reeth and Gunnerside. You will see this and the fact that both the officers and the elected member confirmed that they had been offered the same opportunities. The wording needed changing to actually recorded. Well, that's not quite applicable in this, because the federations have to propose it themselves, and that's what was said at the time, that they propose what they would like to have delivered at the federation. So in actual fact, with all the information, the federations receive all the informations of the other school, but North Yorkshire Council would not be offering anything. So we're not actually going to change the minutes. Nikki, have you anything? What did you have? Oh, yes. Did you have something? Oh, yes. The other point was it's down as Middleton when in fact it's Middleham. So that needs altering as well on the minutes. And the other one was that it was said that was an undertaking of the PIR to review the implementations of the policy. Well, it's not a review of the implementations of the policy itself. It is just, Annabelle, would you like to explain that better for me, please?
Sorry, it is confusing. In 91.3, that the second to last paragraph, it says, and also to undertake a post-implementation review of the policy. We're not reviewing the policy, we're reviewing the implementation of the policy. So that just needs changing slightly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, Annabelle, thank you. So taking all those that I've just said, how does everybody agree for the changes and that agree the minutes? I propose the changes. All those in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Any against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. I better just have that wrote down for you, Nikki. We just need a break while we just sort out the yeah, we've got a problem still, I think.
Obviously now there is some work to do to make sure that the service gets up and running and is sustained. There is a potential prospect that there might be a wider range of services, but that is TBD. But crucially, the Richmondshire PCN's involvement and the South Tees Trust are properly engaged, so that is good news. And I think will come as a welcome relief to everyone who is a patient in that community. So thanks to Central Dales Practice, who really were very good to work with through this, and obviously Yvonne, you were excellent in working through this with me as well, and the parish councils and everyone else who made their views heard. So I'm glad we have positive resolution there too. Next, Hope Moor Wind Farm, which I think what someone might have raised with me last time we were together. But the plans for this project were unveiled last year. I've had a couple of briefings from the developer, and the proposal roughly is to build 23 turbines, which are up to 200 metres high on the moorland between Swaledale and Teesdale. Now, to put it in context, 200 metres is taller than the Gherkin, so these aren't just everyday wind farms. These are very large ones. Now, as members will know, I don't routinely get involved in individual planning applications handled by the local authority, but this plan is being dealt with under a different process which goes up to a national planning inspector decided by the Secretary of State under a streamlined planning procedure. So together with Angus, I'm opposing the plan and making sure that everyone's views locally are reflected in this process, and that it doesn't just happen without regard to those views. The two things which I flagged in Parliament the other week as well. One is the visual impact, obviously, just given this is a nationally important landscape and these things will be very tall and visible from lots of places, including the park, but also the damage to peatlands. I've spent quite a lot of time over the last decade supporting local efforts to restore, regenerate peatland, which is really a national treasure, and we're lucky to have so much of it in our community. So we wouldn't want there to be any undue damage to the peatland. So this process will be ongoing. As I said, it's ultimately decided by the Secretary of State via the planning inspector, but I will continue to make sure that our community's voice is loudly heard in the process, including, as I said, raising it in Parliament just recently. Just a couple of other small things before I finish. A66, as you know, we've had the confirmation positively that upgrade and dualling is going ahead. We are still waiting for a clarity on the timeline of exactly what's happening then. So I'm continuing to push the Department for Transport to give us the clarity we need and make sure that we're not right at the end of that process, ideally. And then very lastly, last time Kevin rightly had raised the issue of the traffic congestion around Catterick and Colburn. So in response to that, I convened a meeting together with the garrison commander, Charlie Anderson, Lieutenant Colonel Charlie Anderson, and it was very constructive. We had everyone there. Kevin was there, council was there, and we agreed that the next step would be an up-to-date traffic survey, which North Yorkshire Council will carry out to give us a sense of exactly where we are. And thanks to Carl Battersby and his team, Carl Les as well, who was at the meeting. But Kevin, thank you for what you've done, and hopefully we'll make some progress on that in time to come. So those were the main quick things from me. Back to you, Yvonne.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive list of things you covered. Before anybody asks any question, I need to just say about the wind farm, the Hope wind farm.
The Hope Moor one, yeah.
Why I'm saying it, I've had instructions from the monitoring officer that we have to be very careful, because everybody here could easily be on a planning application for wind farms across North Yorkshire. It's one thing to discuss the Hope Moor farm, because that could be separate, but we have to be very careful, and that's why he doesn't want it as an agenda item. So any questions on the Hope Moor farm, remind all the members that they have to remember would only be discussing one application, not wind farms in general. So can I open it up for any questions, anybody? Good grief. Oh, Angus.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Rishi. Yeah, this actually isn't about the Hope Moor wind farm. It's about the A66 clarity on timeline. Have you been given any indication, Rishi, as to or what sort of? I'm only interested naturally in the North Yorkshire section. My understanding is that the Cumbrian section is sort of commenced now. But originally, we were told that all 6 sections would be progressed at once, together.
I guess that's exactly why I've gone back to them and to get clarity on that and make sure that we're not disadvantaged, because that was my understanding previously as well. So we'll have to just wait and see what they say, and then as soon as they do, I'll let you know. But clearly, I'm like you, keen to get our bit done as quickly as possible. Not least because we've been campaigning on it for a long time, and when I was in government, did my best to make sure that this also got the attention it deserved.
Thank you very much, Angus. I will actually just mention the Hope wind farm. Based on the fact that tomorrow is the last day, up to midnight tomorrow evening, is the last day for individuals to make representation. And just to give you just a little bit thought on it, you will be able to see the tips of the turbines as far away as Northallerton. So it isn't just an issue for, say, the Yorkshire Dales or for just near the Durham border. So I'm just saying that it's only the first phase. We're going to go through many other phases before we get there. But if anybody's interested, just have a look and you will see the implications this might mean for others. So that's all I dare say on that particular subject. Well, everybody must seem very happy with what you're doing, Rishi, because there's nobody else that's got their hands up, so we'll be able to let you get back on with your busy day.
Perfect.
Thank you
Thanks
very much.
I will see you all later. Going to try and head to Parliament later, actually, to talk about apprenticeships. So I will catch up with you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Now, I'll just go back to agenda item 5, which is declarations of interest. No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. So we have public questions and statements, and I'm allowing Mr. Johnson to just make a first part of this because it's connected with the Link Banking Hub. So he'll read us a short little bit first, and then he has something on the on the link, so we'll on the hub, so we'll let him speak before that. So it's over to you, Mr. Johnson.
As most of you know, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm speaking on behalf of Stokesay Town Council. I'd like to briefly touch on two issues. One's later, so I'll just talk about the hub. Firstly, before the committee receives a formal update from Link, I want to thank all the members that supported us last time, and Rishi for the support with the banking hub, and especially David Ugle, who helped with the other local councils gaining support from them. This is a campaign that Councillor Bryn Griffiths and I have been leading for over a year, working with residents, businesses and community organisations to make the case for a banking hub in Stokesley. We are delighted when Link confirmed that Stokesley would recommend for a banking hub. Whilst there is still work to be done before it comes operational, this is a major milestone and reflects the strength of local support for the campaign. When we actually announced it on Facebook, we got over 50,000 views when the good news came out. That support was helped to ensure the voice of Stokesay and surrounding area. The work is not finished yet. Bryn and I remain actively involved, working with stakeholders on potential locations, keeping local business residents updated and helping to ensure the hub is delivered as quickly as possible. And it'd be so good for Stokesay. It'll help it remain vibrant, people visiting and banking. And probably, I said this last time, but 40% of the crime in the UK now is fraud and scams. So the banking hub will work together with the police as well. And if we can prevent one fraud and scam a month in Stokesley, it'll be a great success. And again, thanks to everybody for listening to me today. And thanks, Chair, for allowing me to speak. And I'll speak later on something else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we've split it up for that reason, so it's relevant to the agenda item. So thank you. So now we come on to the Link Banking Hub, provision for Stokesley. So we have Adam Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Anything else a second? We did actually have another public speaking. So are you going to read this out, Angus? It's Susie Wilkinson, Hope Moor Action Group had, but she couldn't attend. And so we're going to ask Angus just to read that one out, if you want to.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Chair. It isn't particularly, it looks long, but it isn't. Chair, this is from Susie Wilson, Chair of the Hope Moor Wind Farm Action Group. Chair, I am speaking on behalf of the Hope Moor Wind Farm Action Group. Firstly, we're very grateful to the Right Honourable MP Rishi Sunak for mentioning us last Thursday, the 11th of June 2026 in the House of Commons. This was a significant moment for the campaign, bringing it to the heart of where decisions are made. Also for his recognition, this is probably why I wanted to read it out, Chair, of myself, who supported the campaign since its early stages. The proposed Hope Moor Wind Farm is one of the most significant developments ever proposed in our area. It has the potential to affect our landscape, environment, tourism, economy, local infrastructure, and daily lives of residents across Richmondshire for generations to come. And given the scale and importance of this proposal, local people are asking a simple question. What are Richmondshire-based members of this committee doing to ensure that local voices are properly heard and represented throughout this process? I am told that many in the local North Yorkshire communities feel they are not being engaged with North Yorkshire Council and local councillors. My understanding is that Richmond should be scoped into the consultation along with a wider reach such as Leyburn. While we appreciate that the final decision may ultimately rest with the Secretary of State, the communities and councils can take back some control and impact on the final decision. It does not have to be developer-led. Also, this should not prevent North Yorkshire Council from actively engaging with local communities, gathering evidence and developing an informed position on behalf of its residents. Durham County Council Planning arranged a meeting with affected parish councils and elected representatives to discuss the NSIP process in which we find Hope Moor Wind Farm proposal on. This proved very helpful. Also, some of the county and town councillors are working across party lines to understand the implications of the scheme and ensure local concerns are properly considered. They're being very proactive in their efforts. This is above party politics. Would North Yorkshire County and town councillors who are in a position to oppose this proposal be able to help coordinate a countrywide understanding of the impacts of the proposal? Also, are North Yorkshire Council able to bring together the parish councils, parish meeting representatives and other interested bodies to a meeting regarding the current energy NSIP process in which this proposal sits? This would educate, reassure and enable such people to confidently engage with the process, and also to stop ad hoc interpretations being put into practice. The community engagement is a significant aspect of the pre-application stage, such an input would be very helpful. This is about the future of the place we live, the character of our communities and the well-being of the people who call this area home. As the community's awareness and understanding increases, they are looking towards cross-party councillors to provide leadership and strong engagement. Residents want to see councillors speaking with one voice on behalf of Richmondshire and working collaboratively to ensure this proposal receives the rigorous scrutiny it deserves. The communities affected by this proposal deserve nothing less. Thank you. Susie Wilson, Hope Moor Action.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angus, for reading that out. I will just give one small update, which it only came through very late on Thursday, and that is that North Yorkshire Council have made representations to the scoping report. It took quite a while. It was important to get that right, which they have done. So they have made representation on the scoping report, and I just think that needed to be said, because of course that finishes, as I said, tomorrow. About that, Adam, I'll come back to you now. Is the Senior Public Affairs Manager at Link.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for having me today. It's good to be here in Northallerton. So Link, we're quite well known for having run the cash machine network for around 40 years. So we connect everybody's bank accounts to virtually any cash machine across the UK so that people can access cash. But since 2022, we've also been the coordination body for bank branch closures across the UK. So what we do is we track all closures all across the country, and we recommend additional shared services where we think that they're required. And our remit, which is defined in legislation and is regulated, is to protect access to cash, withdrawals and deposits. And it's a bit of a common misconception, because we can recommend banking hubs as one service to plug gaps in cash provision. People think that our job is to protect banking services as a whole, but it isn't. It's just the cash access. And that's why in smaller communities where there's a post office that offers everyday banking services and a number of ATMs, we won't then recommend a banking hub, because in terms of cash services, that community's well served. And we also don't want to undermine existing services such as the local post office, because if you put a banking hub in a small town, the real risk is then that you undermine that post office and take the business away from the post office. We are regulated, as I say, by the Financial Conduct Authority, the Bank of England and the PSR. And there's two triggers for us to do an assessment, a cash access assessment. One, as I say, is a bank branch closure. The other is a community bequest. So we have a community bequest scheme where any elected representative or any member of the public or council can get in touch with us to say that they think there's a problem in their community with access to cash. And we'll then carry out the exact same assessment that we would if there was a bank branch closure. So what's happened in Stokesley is last year there was the closure of the Santander, which triggered an assessment. At the time when we assessed it, it didn't meet the criteria and the threshold for recommending a banking hub. It was just very marginally missed out. So 12 months later, Councillor Johnson and Rishi, as he was mentioning, have got in touch with us again and put in a community request for an additional assessment. And on this occasion, we've looked at it again, and it's actually just crept over the threshold in terms of being the right size to meet the criteria for a banking hub. And I know that papers have been circulated before this meeting, which sort of explain our assessment criteria in quite some detail. So I won't go into that. But if anyone's got questions on it, I'm more than happy to answer them. So the normal threshold that we look at to qualify is 70 cash relevant retailers and at least 10,000 adults that live close to the retail centre. And as I say, Stokesley on this occasion has just met that criteria. So I think I'll stop there. As I say, there were papers circulated, and I know the chair is keen for it to be opened up to questions. So if you've got any questions on the sorts of services a banking hub offers or what the process is from here to get it established, I'm happy to answer those. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for coming and thanks for supporting Stokesley. The issue about banks is to do with legislation, but we are where we are. We've got getting a banking up. My big thanks to Councillor Chris Johnson, who worked on behalf of Stokesley Town Council, successfully challenging you, and democracy has worked. We've got the right numbers, and it's a growing population, which will grow even more if the 5-year supply of housing requirements are required. So I think that's a big win for the Town Council and Rishi and everybody else involved. Chris tells me he's already been with the Link representatives looking at building site, built suitable buildings in Stokesley last week, and I understand that by end of August we'll be having a temporary hub in Stokesley. So thank you very much to yourselves and to Stokesley Town Council for supporting it.
Thank you very much, Bryn. And I certainly found this very interesting. I'll go parochial again. So I'll come back. Sorry, I'll let you speak. Back.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to clarify, once Link has recommended an additional service such as a banking hub, the process then actually passes to Cash Access UK, who are a bank-owned infrastructure company, and their job is to find the suitable premises on the high street and then to get the banking hub up and running and get it staffed. So it's Cash Access UK that are now working with Councillor Johnson and the rest of the community to search for premises on the high street. They do have an obligation under the legislation to get at least a temporary hub up and running within 12 weeks of us having made a recommendation. So what we often find is that you'll get a temporary hub set up somewhere like a local library or a community centre or a council building, just while they get that permanent premises identified and up and running. But just to come to Councillor Griffiths' point, we're always keen to try to arrive at the correct decision for every single location. And, you know, we, as much as we do carry out detailed site visits and we've got all sorts of data that we use, we do recognise that you as elected representatives know your patch much better than we ever will. So we do welcome that challenge that we get. We have an appeals process, as I say, the community request scheme. We have an independent assessor as well who will get involved if a complaint proceeds that far. And we do invite elected representatives on our site visits as well. So we are really keen to make sure we get the right decision for every location.
Thank you very much. David, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, thank you, Town Councillor Johnson, for the kind words. I realised possibly when I was doing all the work I did, I was probably helping Chris write his first election leaflet. But for me, the main thing is that cross-party working. You got to remember we all aspire to cross-party working, but so it's quite often we don't see too much of it. But here we are, we're successful cross-party working. We've got the criteria for this is all about cash. I would hope, though, there'll be a lot of people coming down to this banking hub that don't sort of do criteria. They just want to go to see a face behind a counter. Can we? What sort of things will they not be able to help on? Because what will be nothing really frustrating for residents if we end up being told, well, you'll have to go home and go online and sort that one out. I do feel that because we're going to get people who not only want cash, but they want to sort of skip the call centres and skip the sort of the online stuff. So I hope you can give us some reassurances that we can do everything in here. Thank you.
Yes, carry on, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so in a banking hub, you've got two things really. Firstly, you've got a counter service, which any customer of any of the major high street banks can use Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And that has all the same cash services that you can use at a post office. So things like paying in notes and coins and checks, withdrawing cash, checking your balance, paying utility bills, giving change for local businesses. What you then also have is you have a private consultation room, which is staffed by community bankers, and the staff that staff that room are on rotation from the major high street banks. So what Cash Access UK will do, they will look at what are the top 5 most popular banks in Stokesley, and there'll be representatives of those banks Monday to Friday. So you might have Lloyds on a Monday, HSBC on a Tuesday, NatWest on a Wednesday. So if you've got something that's a bit more complex or requires a bit more time, you know that you've got a community banker from your bank there 1 day a week that you can go and access those more complex services. So that's things like transferring money between accounts, making payments, registering a bereavement, reporting your card lost or stolen. And the exact services that are on offer by the community bankers do vary slightly from bank to bank. But if you go on Cash Access UK's website, you can find out exactly what's on offer for your particular bank. I would also just mention that the government has just launched a review on access to banking specifically, because there's a bit of a recognition now, I think, that just being able to access cash on its own is not sufficient for communities. You know, if you live in a small town that is not the size that will qualify for a banking hub, okay, you might have a post office where you can do your basic cash services. It might be 20 or 30 miles on a bus to get to your nearest bank, which is obviously a major challenge, but particularly for vulnerable people who, as you say, don't do online banking, or don't understand it, or don't have access to the internet. So that's being run by Richard Lloyd, is leading that review currently. It's currently taking evidence, and it will report in October. There's legislation going through the Houses of Parliament at the moment that this review will feed into if necessary. So there could be legislation to protect access to banking in the same way that we currently have legislation to protect access to cash.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting what you've just said now about more than just the post office. I'll go parochial to my own ward and up to Hawes, because it's because of the community office, the community partnership declare the interest that I'm on the board. But we have the post office, which businesses just could not they'd have to go about 27 miles to the nearest bank. So how do they put money in and out? They would be absolutely lost without the post office, and also checks in, checks out, everything that happens there. But the other thing we have up at Hawes, is we have the Newcastle Building Society, and I've seen people, you know, they go and they can get cash out, because you can actually get cash out of a building society. And I know that since it's arrived, the amount of new customers they did get, because they were able to do this, because having to travel 20 some miles to the nearest bank can make a big difference to everybody. So I do appreciate the importance of it. And as you know, we did have this on the area committee, so we were absolutely behind this happening. And that's why I'm delighted that this is going to come to fruition. I know not immediately, because these things take time, and finding a building, as we have known just recently with the branch surgery, we thought we might have to find a building, and it's not very easy. So thank you very much. Has anybody anything else they want to ask? I'm quite certain there'll be a lot of other areas thinking, oh, I think I'll have to get hold of Adam and see if you can get one in my town. Thank you. All right, we will move on to actually agenda item 9. But before we do, Mr. Johnson has another statement to read out. Thank you.
Thanks very much for listening to me again. You'll be sick of me by now and you'll all want to go home. But Stokesley Town Council, Stokesley Public and Stokesley Business are actually in shock when they found out the news that the police have to pay for CCTV footage when they're looking into antisocial behaviour and crimes. We understand that most councils take the view that residents are best served by working alongside the police to prevent and solve crime, rather than place restrictions or financial barriers in the way of accessing potential evidence. The income generated from these charges is minimal given the context of the council's overall budget. However, the potential consequences are much greater. Every request requires additional administration, additional time and additional public resources. Give the police the opportunity of doing it free so they're not tied up with extra paperwork. More importantly, any barrier to access CCTV footage discourages its use or delaying access to evidence that could help identify offenders, secure convictions and keep the community safe. Residents expect CCTV cameras to be there to support law enforcement and protect the public. They do not expect one body to charge another to access the evidence for the very purpose. I therefore formally seek in this committee's backing for my proposal that these charges be abolished and North Yorkshire Police be given immediate access, unrestricted access to CCTV footage for the purpose of preventing and detecting crime. I spoke with a local policeman the other day and he said it makes our job virtually impossible, and that's from the horse's mouth. You'll all look very worried because we know it's all about money. To mitigate the cost, charge the insurance companies and private prosecutions more to mitigate it. So let's work with the police, not against them. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll get an answer possibly for you when they come and do that. I think Paul Romans is going to actually answer it for you. So
thank you.
Right. So I think the best thing is if you all go and sit down at the there and then answer accordingly. Thank you. I think you better answer that first before we start. Now, this item is on community safety and the CCTV annual update, which of course we've had the report on. So I think the best thing is if you would first of all like to introduce yourselves, and then everybody knows exactly what role you play.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Helena Watkins, Senior Community Safety Officer, so I cover Hambleton, Richmond and Craven.
Gone. Oh no, mine's back on.
Good morning, Paul Romans, Community Safety and CCTV Manager for North Yorkshire Council. So I cover the former Scarborough, Rydale, Hamilton, Richmond and Craven districts, as well as the CCTV control room in Scarborough.
Morning, I'm Inspector Robinson. I cover the Hamilton district. Morning, Kieran Conlon, local neighbourhood inspector for Richmondshire area, Richmond, Leyburn and Country.
We can hear better now. So as I said, you have answer a question from the speaker as well as your report. But as I said, we've had the report from you, and we've had a lot of interesting details here. So it's over to you, and then we'll get any questions to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pick up the wider just highlights within the report. I trust everybody has read it. So just to inform, I think we've been here before and presented in regard to the restructure of the community safety hubs throughout the county and what that looks like. I mean, there hasn't been an awful lot of change as far as Hamilton and Richmond are concerned, because we've always had a model where we've had community safety hub PCs embedded within the community safety hubs. That's been something that's worked very well in the Hamilton hub and the Richmond hub. That is a delivery model that we've extended across the county with everybody in place and recruited as they should be within all the former districts now, apart from on the coast, which is a little bit further behind. We have developed a joint delivery group for the community safety hubs as well. That is the aim of that, is to really look at how we are moving the community safety hubs forward. That currently that is pretty much made up of North Yorkshire Council, North Yorkshire Police partners, but we are looking at extending that as well to wider partners and wider departments within North Yorkshire Council. That very much is about looking at best practice, looking at how we continue to evolve and how we continue to serve the communities as best we can through innovative practice within the community safety hubs. We have also developed, which was passed through exec last week, our antisocial behaviour policy and procedure for the community safety and CCTV service, which aligns with our tools and powers that are available to us through the Crime and Policing Act. That is, and training has been delivered to all the teams as well, to make sure all the teams are fully upskilled in delivering the interventions that we are able to, and powers that are available to us through that. That's also, we've got an underpinning framework to that, which all the community safety hubs are working to as well. What we have had previously is a little bit of inconsistency between the former districts in terms of how we worked. You've got 7 former districts coming together, and the community safety hubs all function in slightly different ways. We've got an underpinning framework now to look at how we try and be as consistent as we possibly can as a community safety and CCTV service, whilst also reflecting kind of local need as well, because we do recognise that the county of North Yorkshire as a whole, there are very different demographics and different needs throughout the piece. And just the final thing from me before I move on to Helena to pick up more local stuff. And I mean, I can pick up the question from Stokeshire Town Council now, or I can pick it up afterwards, that's fine. But the CCTV service itself is under wider strategic review. That's been undertaken for a little while now. We're hoping for an outcome maybe around August time of that wider strategic review. So that's the whole service and what CCTV the offer looks like from North Yorkshire Council. Currently, there are differences in different areas dependent on what the commitment to CCTV was by the former district council. So that is, the whole service is under review currently, and we're hoping to get an outcome to that over the next few months. So I can pick up the question now in regard to CCTV, if that's what's. Yep, thank you. Right. So in regards to charges to North Yorkshire Police, so CCTV is not a statutory service for North Yorkshire Council. we obviously have a number of statutory duties that we have to meet as a local authority, of which CCTV is not one. And it does cost a significant amount of money in terms of obviously staffing. It is a 24/7 service across both control rooms in Harrogate and in Scarborough. We also have to continuously obviously update systems and cameras. That is something that is an ongoing cost all the time as well. And funding for that process, we have one primary customer from that, which is North Yorkshire Police primarily. There is an agreement with North Yorkshire Police, which has been long-standing between the former districts. There was agreements in place with Hambleton District Council, North Yorkshire Police, Harrogate District Council, North Yorkshire Police, and Scarborough Borough Council, North Yorkshire Police, in regard to how those control rooms were supported and funded in partnership with North Yorkshire Police. The percentage cost is quite small that North Yorkshire Police input in regard to the overall cost of running the control rooms. That is something that is under the wider strategic, that is included in the wider strategic review, because the costs of running CCTV are not small. So that's why those charges are in place. I've worked both operationally within CCTV and strategically, and I've never heard any issues in regard to the difficulties that causes for police officers on the ground in terms of payment or what that looks like. It's one form effectively, and the cost of anything, and that's for the request of the footage, which would have to be a process anyway due to data protection regulations and what that looks like. North Yorkshire Council have a data controller, so that would have to come through. North Yorkshire Police cannot be given just unlimited access. It would have to come through us as data controller anyway. So there would always be a form process in place to request access to any footage for us to provide. We have moved that forward significantly. All three former districts used to operate on offering DVDs and discs, which took some time to burn and then had to be played. We now have moved fully towards the digital NICE system that North Yorkshire Police have pushed forward. We've all moved towards that in both control rooms. That is much quicker and easier for officers and CCTV operators alike. It's been really, really useful in terms of getting that footage, because historically we could have sometimes discs that had been paid for that then weren't collected, and we could have discs storing up which had been paid for but weren't picked up. We now see that footage has gone instantly, and it's really, really useful. But the overall piece in regard to the payment, that should not slow down anything for any operational police officers. I hope that Inspector Sabber, Inspector Conlon could actually expand on that a little for me. But there should not be any kind of making it, to quote, impossible for police officers on the ground, because it really doesn't make any difference to their operational day-to-day process in terms of the payment. The only thing that is requested is a form request, which would highlight the incident, the request for footage, and have it signed off by somebody of a higher rank. And that is the only expectation that is placed on police officers for footage. There's nothing, they don't have anything to do in regard to payment at all.
Thank you. I think Kevin wants to come in. So before we go on to anybody else, would you like to come in, Kevin?
Yeah, just a couple of questions before I comment on it. Are we talking about 130,000 a year for Richmondshire for police requests, CCTV is the first question. And secondly, is this slowing down the process for officers? Do the officers requesting, this will be for the police later on, do they have to request a senior officer to sign off a budget to get the CCTV footage to get it going? They're the two questions. Thirdly, I might as well do this one before I comment, is I believe Patrick Garrison is CCTV by the MOD, and do they charge the police to look at them?
So in terms of Richmond, there isn't any North Yorkshire Council CCTV in Richmond at all. So there's no fees or charges coming from Richmond for North Yorkshire Council to North Yorkshire Police, because we don't have any public open space cameras in Richmond. So there wouldn't be any charges from Richmond, and £130,000 would seem wild when you consider that is, I think, in terms of North Yorkshire Police put into CCTV as a whole, including North Yorkshire Council and York, I don't think it approaches £130,000.
I was talking about, sorry, I said Richmond. I was talking about the wider Richmond show, about that, where there are some, there's none in Richmond at all. And about the MOD, you don't know anything about the MOD and the cameras they have in Patrick Garrison for terrorist reasons.
The CCTV in Richmondshire is done by the town council, so it's not involved with the county council. In Patrick Garrison, the CCTV is completed by the MOD. I'll have to come back to you, Councillor Foster, about whether we're charged for that, but we have a good relationship with them and they regularly provide us with CCTV.
So yeah, there's no North Yorkshire Council charges to North Yorkshire Police for Richmondshire at all. Like I said, the garrison aren't on Wales.
Did you have a comment to make?
Yes, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. As a North Yorkshire councillor, I think we should do everything we can do to support North Yorkshire Police. And if this is a barrier in any way whatsoever, I think, Sharon, we've got a fantastic Chief Constable called Tim Forbes, who's got budgetary pressures like everybody else. But safety should be one of the #1 priorities of North Yorkshire. And I'd like to see this looked at personally. It concerns me that there's a process to go through. And I hear what you're saying, that you don't think it's a barrier, but I think any barriers and speed of this is paramount. I don't think the MOD do charge the police to have a look, and I'm glad that in Patrick Garrison anyway, and with the area where we are, we have got some CCTV camera that seems to work very well, and for good reasons, for terrorist reasons, security reasons. But I'll leave that there, and it's something to kind of look at. But I do have concerns about why we're charging when we should be supporting and doing everything possible to help and aid our police force. But thank you very much for that.
I have a few. Oh, if you come back on that, yeah.
I think it's just important from a police perspective that we give our perspective now before we sort of move on. Certainly in terms of, and obviously I appreciate it back in the police are given, but in terms of the actual cost, it's nowhere near the amount of money that's been suggested there, nowhere near. From a police perspective, it's not, understanding that the council is not a statutory provision that has to be provided. If we had a choice between paying the money that we are paying and not having the CCTV, absolutely we are going to pay that money, and it's not a huge amount of money. In terms of the form that has to be filled in by the officer, when we say a senior officer signing it off, not the first line manager, it's not around a budget, it's around ensuring that GDPR, what we're putting in is the requests we're putting in are actually necessary for those investigations. And it's one small form. It doesn't need war and peace on it. It's basically writing up what the circumstances are and what we're looking for, because sometimes a phone call just isn't enough, and then we've got that audit trail. So it's certainly not a massive burden on police providing this, and we certainly need that audit trail.
Just to come in as well, and thanks, Laurie, for that. Just to come in on that as well, I'm not privy to what the procedures are from Patrick Garrison, but I would expect there would be operational procedures that would look at the transfer of data as well. So I would expect there would still be a form to fill in, just like there is for North Yorkshire Council, because that's in land data protection regulations. And I'd be very surprised if the Garrison weren't expecting that same process to be followed.
I have four people wanting to ask questions, but I'll just come in with Carl first.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to pick up on Kevin's point, and I mean we do share the responsibility for community safety, and I don't see any reason why two organisations can't share the cost in whatever way that we do that. We could ask the police for a standing charge every year to make a contribution, but this seems to be a more practical way that when there's evidence gathering to be done, then there is a payment made.
Thank you. I'm going to have all three questions to you, and then I'll let you come back in, and then I know you've got something to say as well. Thank you. Heather.
I was going to say Peter probably wants to speak more about the cameras, but mine's twofold. It's not just about the cameras, it's about the other report, but comes together. Are you seeing here, Great Ayton, there's a great upsurge of antisocial behaviour, which in every village, every town, these situations can be different. Great Ayton's probably got different issues to do with young people, and David and I are very shortly going off to the National Park meeting, and we're very focused on trying to get people out into the countryside, young people, to enjoy what we've got, get it and see what the national parks have to offer. But sadly, some of them from Middlesbrough, whatever, are coming in on the S Valley line into Great Ayton, and some of them to enjoy what we've got in Great Ayton by the waterfall, whatever. And even coming off the train, there's a few issues, and you know, some of them haven't paid for the fare. I've got people saying they shouldn't be allowed, they're not paid, so that is quite difficult. But first of all, I've got to say that you know, if you look at this, suddenly it was an upsurge, and all I can say is that the Community Safety Partnership have really worked very hard to sort of find out who these people are, dispersal orders going into different areas, into Colby Newham, to find out where these people are. But it's continuous. But they're doing everything possible. We've been having monthly meetings. They're going into the Great Ayton Discovery Centre. They're engaging with the public. And I'd like to say, well, you're doing everything you can to contain it, but you're reaching a point of it where it's going to get worse. And so I'd like to congratulate, well, not, I'd like to say well done. And I think that, you know, you've done everything you can, which leads us back to the CCTV. And I think I mentioned possibly at the parish council meeting, I mean, we did have one before at the Discovery Centre. I'm happy to fund some of my locality budget money towards anything like that. I think if other councils here feel the need, this is a good way to spend money and to help everybody. But just, I've got to say that you've got a big challenges on your hand, but the multi-agency group's are pretty good, working with the housing agency, working with the schools, working with the general public. And I think a lot of these parents don't know what the children are doing. And let's face it, you know, when they find out they can do something. But so there's two edges to that. Where we can, we should try and support the CCTV in the right place. I mean, again, we don't talk about it all the time, but they can be moved around or they can't be moved around. It's a very complex issue. But yeah, thank you for what you're doing and continue with it. And no doubt you'll be getting an email this week about another incident, but you do respond. Thank you.
Can I bring Peter in next?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just want to give some context about this charge, because I was involved with it being set up some 10 years ago, and council, as may recall, there was discussion with the first commissioner who wanted to take over on behalf of the police running the CCTV. There was pushback from district councils. As was originally said, this is a non-statutory service. And the agreement at that time was the payment that was made to the District Councils Act was a contribution towards the running of the CCTV. So this goes back 10 years ago. Other police forces actually run the CCTVs and take responsibility for the full costs of it. But the compromise in North Yorkshire, which was put in place, Carl, I think it was 10 or 12 years ago with the first commissioner, that the districts would retain the CCTV cameras and the contribution would be made by the police when they wanted to have access to the system.
Thank you for that, Peter. And Councillor Wheel.
Thank you, Chairman. What Peter's just said almost takes out what I was going to say, is that this was originally set up as a police service, I believe, and then the police, because of cost pressures, opted out of monitoring it and doing the whole job. So I know that I have great sympathy with what the public speaker said, that one authority shouldn't be holding another to ransom, but this has gone complete circle, and I think it's important that people know that.
Thank you very much, John. Oh, well, I'll let them come back in because we've had three sort of questions and reports. So would anybody like to answer, Heather or Peter or John?
That's it. I think it's for two reasons. We have seen a natural uptick in it, but I think we've also increased our staffing as well. So, sorry, a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. So we've also increased our staffing as well. So for a while we had in Stokes and Great Ayton was a very limited neighbourhood policing presence. But then what we've done is we've increased that, so that naturally increases reporting because we've increased our visibility. So people are more inclined to report. So we're seeing it from two ways, but there is a natural increase, and as we've said, that it's people, youths coming on the train from from Middlesbrough coming in. They also go to other areas outside of North Yorkshire as well prior to coming to us. And it's a bit more difficult because there is no pattern around it. In relation to the trains, British Transport Police, they work with us closely. They're on the trains as well. And what we've started doing is we've started going to the train station on days where we expect it to be busier. And we use our body cams. We get names of people coming off you essentially, so that if incidents happen and we have CCTV footage, then we're able to identify them quickly, and then that's when we link in with the community safety hub. So as you say, first, thank you. It is an ongoing issue, but I am confident that we will eventually stamp it out. CCTV wise, we've had these discussions out. I'll come over and I'll let you answer.
So I'm still in process of looking at CCTV up at Great Ayton, but we struggle with the infrastructure up at Great Ayton. And I think Councillor Morehouse, we've inquired about the funding of a pole, haven't we, up there at the minute, which we're working collaboratively with yourselves to explore costs. But I do have at the minute 6 deployable ASB cameras, so I was looking at perhaps putting one up there for the summer months at least, and that's the same down at Richmond, but we've got a camera there already. But yeah, so we are exploring that. We just haven't currently got the right infrastructure to carry the weight of a camera. So they're all the old posts, aren't they?
Thank you, Chair. I've heard what's been said around here at the table about payment for CCTV access. My experience is that the Bobby on the beat tells me the payment system becomes a hindrance to him having to access. He needs, because there's a payment involved, there's some authorization required within the internal police force to assess as presumably whether it's value for money, and that is a hindrance to him having access to CCTV. It takes some bureaucracy before he can access it. I noticed in the report we talk about in paragraph 5.4 that there's a service level agreement, and I can remember with Peter and Carl as the SLA being set up at Ambleton. I think it's time to review that SLA. I think there's. I've got the figures in front of me. The cost isn't that massive in the first instance, but anything that creates a hindrance to obtaining evidence when there's an ongoing investigation needs to be looked at. I think it's time for us to review CCTV SLA agreement. Whether it's okay, does it need changing? Are we the right people to be doing it? I think we need a review of that. So I propose that we ask the executive to have a look at the SLA and with a review to whether or not a chargeable fee is appropriate, or whether North Yorkshire should in fact be doing the CCTV. I think it would make sense to have that fundamental review of it. Chair, thank you. So that's my proposal.
You're asking for the executive to do it, but maybe somebody might consider whether it should go, if you're going to ask for anything, it would be a scrutiny. It would go to a scrutiny meeting first, I think.
Well, I think the exec would do that. They'd ask for the scrutiny to look at it. I don't know which is the appropriate scrutiny board that they would choose.
I'll wait a moment and then we'll ask for, there's a seconder for that. Kevin.
Yeah, I heard earlier on that's 10 years ago. We're a new council now. I think this is appropriate to have another look at that. We're not saying change anything. Let's talk about it and investigate it. That's all. Asking to whichever committee that we think it's appropriate to. We just need to look at it. It is a new council. These are all the old district councils that made degrees. We just need to have a look at this and get a full thinking plan. Thank you. So I'll second that.
Thank you. But I think from what we've always done, things go to scrutiny first from this committee and then they would go to the executive. But we'll have a vote on that in a moment. Has anybody else got any questions? I'll let you come back because you've just heard from Councillor.
Thank you. Just to come back on the first point in regard to officer time, I think Inspector Conlon might want to touch on that as well. But I think the process in regard to oversight from a line manager is not in regard to cost. It's in regard to making sure that we don't have people requesting footage. It's checks and balances to make sure that people are requesting footage for the appropriate reasons. That is purely what that is in place for. It's nothing to do with payment or cost. It's in regard to making sure that if a PC or a sergeant or anybody is requesting footage, that they are doing so for the right reasons. And that is overseen and signed off by a senior officer, but a senior officer to them. It doesn't have to be a chief inspector. If it's a PC level, it would be a sergeant. It doesn't have to be a senior officer. So it's not in regard to cost, it's just in regard to checks and balances for appropriateness of the review. And in regard to a wider CCTV, there is already one underway. That includes every element of CCTV in North Yorkshire Council. So that we'll look at, that is looking at our whole provision within across the county. It's looking at what is best placed in terms of how that's funded, how that's run. It's looking at SLAs. It's looking at every element of CCTV provision and public open space CCTV provision in North Yorkshire Council. That's underway already. We hopefully will have an outcome for that. I think it will be around August time for that outcome. But that is looking at every element of that provision. And if North Yorkshire Police if it was felt that, then the concerns around it being, cost prohibitive to North Yorkshire Police would be significantly increased if they were running it on their own.
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I'm trying to listen with it's a mic.
Sorry, I do speak.
You were saying about you're going to look at something. What were you saying?
So that there is a wider CCTV review already in place. That's already happening. That's been going on for a few months now already. We're expecting an outcome from that in around August time. So that is looking at everything within the CCTV provision that North Yorkshire Council offers for public open space CCTV, how it's funded. There are completely different
Mine's working.
Sorry, I don't know where I got to then. There are different agreements across the county, which is part of what I presume has been looked at. So I can't kind of say what the outcome of that is going to be, but we're currently, I know from the Scarborough control room, there are some parish and town councils who contribute towards the monitoring of CCTV because they weren't under the former Scarborough Borough Council. So that goes across the county. There is different levels of input from parish and town councils as well into the costs and running costs. So all the SLAs will be looked at because we currently have slightly different models depending on what the agreement was with former Hambleton District, former Harrogate District, and the former Scarborough District and how that's funded. Harrogate and Hambleton have become as one now and managed in the same way. Scarborough is a standing charge. That's done slightly differently. The Scarborough control room doesn't charge per piece of evidence. There is a standing charge in place for North Yorkshire Police, which is paid twice a year. So they are two different models from within the same organisation, but there were agreements with former district councils. But this is all under review as part of the wider strategic review of CCTV as a whole, in looking at what we offer, what we have, how it's funded. Every element of public open space CCTV has already been looked at.
Thank you. Carl, would you like to come in?
Don't really think I've got an awful lot to say following that, what Paul's just said. I mean, if you look in the report, I mean, paragraphs 5.1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 actually tell us what's happening. There is a strategic review ongoing. That strategic review could well be reported to scrutiny if scrutiny want to have a look at it. And certainly this conversation today will be reflected on by the executive when we get the report from this meeting. So I think we're covering it all.
Thank you. And I think also we can ask for from the strategic review that it can be looked at by the scrutiny committee. They can ask to have a look at it, and then as well as it going to the executive. Before you have anything else to say, I'm just going to raise one point that, we're talking about 10 years ago, but how much technology has improved and what the general public do. I mean, I can look at sort of the areas that have no CCTV. Well, I mean, I can look at, go on my own iPad or whatever it is, phone, think, and I can look down horse 24 hours a day because there's one on a business there. I mean, I go into the garage at Bainbridge and they always have it running, and I think, oh, who's about in horse? Oh, it's quite quiet, or what have you. So we're very fortunate now, and I'm presuming you realise that, how fortunate we are now, what with people's doorbell cameras, for cameras on cars, and cameras at businesses. That I know how good the CCTV do and help you if you had to catch a criminal, but in general, we're actually watched, regardless of whether we have CCTV in our towns or not. And I think that's a good thing that people have all this equipment.
Just to add to that as well, so the NICE system I referenced earlier, which is what North Yorkshire Police access and for digital recovery of footage, that local businesses or anybody can also upload their own CCTV to that system. So therefore, if any of our Inspector Sadler's or Inspector Collins officers, if they were investigating something and they could see that, they should be able to see if it's been uploaded, if there is a camera in that locality, which should. The aim is obviously to reduce the time that officers have to spend going around doing door-to-door inquiring if there is CCTV. That doesn't mean that they still don't have to do that. Obviously they will still double check. But if members of the public, businesses have uploaded where their cameras are, it significantly reduces time for officers in regard to knowing where cameras are and thinking, right, okay, well that incident's happened there. I know there's a camera on that shop. I'll go and see if we can get access to that CCTV. So that part of that NICE system that we utilise at North Yorkshire Council uses as well to upload footage for NYP, that is in place and really, really useful.
Thank you. Kevin.
I agree. Carl's mentioned 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. It didn't really in that paper tell us when this is due or the scope of it. I mean, now you've given us a lot more detail. I really appreciate that. And within that review, what about public using CCTV cameras to protect their property or safety? Would that be along in that, or is there any guidance from the police of what people are and are not allowed to have cameras while they're protecting their properties?
Yeah, it doesn't look at that scope. That's not something that North Yorkshire Council is responsible for, and North Yorkshire Police. To be honest, it would all go back to the Information Commissioner's office, and there is guidance on the Information Commissioner's office in terms of what the public can use. It is a difficult space for us, but that is what the expectation is.
Okay, thank you. And in light of what I've just said about now we know what the scope is and the timings of that, I don't know about you. I'm quite happy to go along with that and withdraw my that. Go on.
Yeah, I agree, but I just want to make the point that is covered.
Peter.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to invite Councillor Griffiths to withdraw the proposals in view of the review that's been taken over. I fundamentally don't believe that the payment system has any effect on officers having access to the CCTV. Having said that, I'm quite happy to go to the Deputy Mayor at the forthcoming Police and Crime Panel, which Councillor Foster on, and we can ask a specific question on that. But from what I've heard and my knowledge in my role as the Chair of the Police Crime Panel, I don't believe it's an issue. So my recommendation is Councillor Foster and I can revisit that in a couple of weeks at the Police and Crime Panel, and that we let the review continue.
Thank you. In view of what's been said, I'm happy to withdraw that proposal and go along with Peter's
suggestion.
But so long as the review includes the basics of the charging system and the SLA, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you anything else to add to your report, or anything else you want to share with us?
So from a community safety perspective, before we move on to Inspector Sadler, Inspector Collins for North Yorkshire Police, I'll just pass on to Helena for a bit of more of a local input in regards to Hambleton and Richmond from the Community Safety Hub.
Get myself prepared, haven't I? So we've got quite a lot been going on, obviously, which is in the report. Just most recently, we've got some Project Spotlight stuff down at Richmond, which is proving quite productive, and we've got some really good work and collaborative work with highways, so that's going well. We're looking at the deals with Inspector Conlon, looking at target hardening around rural crime and acquisitive crime. So we're doing a lot of work there. And I won't go on to individuals, but we're also exploring a couple of closure orders in the Richmond area to try and stop some problem properties. So that's coming out really good. In terms of Hambleton, we've got quite a lot happening in Hambleton as well. So we've got nighttime economy work around the football. What is it? The World Cup. How can I forget what it's called? We're doing a lot of spiking training, working with the bid, and we're linking in with first gracers at the minute. So that's our projected, like, immediate work that we've got ongoing. Caroline, Councillor Dickinson, is working really well with us around the underpass, and we've got quite a significant issue of graffiti around there, which is proving difficult to catch the culprits, isn't it? But we're trying to make that a better, nicer, safer place for people to be. So that work is some big pieces of work for us this year. But it's going well, I feel. But I'm open to any questions.
Have we any questions? Thank you very much. Oh, I will just say one thing. I was with some young ones on Saturday night, and they're marvellous, and they're never fantastic young people they were. So we have a lot of very good young people, even though we do have some that go and put graffiti. And I just want to make that clear. We've some fantastic young people in North Yorkshire.
Yeah, they're not born bad, are they? We have more good than bad.
Caroline.
Sorry, I think when we're talking about CCTV, I think we need to try and find a way of finding out who is doing the graffiti in the underpass, because I don't think it's young children. So I think this is something that does concern me, because we have some great plans for it, but we don't want them scuppered because we can't find the ones that are creating the havoc at the moment, because it's in an awful state right now.
I did do a site visit only last week, Councillor Dickinson, to look at CCTV again. We are quite limited from highways because of we can't attach anything to the bridge because of the integrity of the bridge. However, I have looked at the library, and if we can put something up on the library looking down into that entrance, it might not capture who's actually done it, but we can get that access and egress covered. So we can definitely, it needs visiting. Thank you.
So go on, have you anything to say, gentlemen?
Everyone should have had a copy of the report for Hambleton. On that's just included all the ASB. I'm assuming everybody has read through that. If you have any questions on the antisocial behaviour, I'm happy to take it. I'll just cover a couple of points. I was going to go into the ASB increase in Grade 10, but I feel like I've covered that. If there's any further questions, I'll happily take them. Our other priority, which again sits around Great Ayton and Stokesley area, we call it Operation Monsoon, which is our operation to tackle rural crime, particularly around quad bike theft and tool theft. We did see an increase coming into the new year. We've made some really good progress. We've arrested some key people, working as well with Coast Command, and we're looking at criminal behaviour orders for people like that once we've secured charges. So the crime level around that serious acquisitive crime in rural areas is starting to drop off. But we are consistent from a neighbourhood policing team. We focus on that, doing the crime prevention stuff, and then on a night we do a lot of data work where we establish the key places to be at the key times, and our specialist operations unit. So we're talking our traffic department, our neighbourhood support teams. They go into those areas with specialist capabilities in order to prevent it and tackle it proactively around pursuits and arresting people in the act, hopefully. So I'm aware that that's an issue, but it's certainly one that we're tackling. I'll also just cover off retail crime as well. There's a real focus on it for us. But we took some really good action earlier in the year where we got 2 criminal behaviour orders on some of our prolific shoplifters, and our retail crime levels have plummeted since then. So we continue to engage with retailers, just offering crime prevention advice, making sure that expensive items aren't at the front of the store where they can be easily grabbed, that kind of thing. And certainly in Northallerton, we have a really good relationship with our retailers.
Has anybody else any more questions? Oh, Peter.
Final question. I'm aware that the police are working really closely with trading standards in closing down problematic shops. I'm aware of some work that's been going on in Northampton High Street. Could you elaborate on how currently that work is going?
Yeah, so a lot of it's around intelligence sharing, because for me that's absolutely key. And then what we do is we'll accompany them, because they have all the powers in relation to that. And if we have powers that are more appropriate, we'll work together. We'll plan an operation on that intelligence that we've shared with each other, and we'll go and execute whatever it is that we need to do. There's been some work ongoing in Thirsk, and I'm not going to go into the detail of it just because it's a little bit sensitive, but it continues at pace, and in time you'll see it come to fruition, I'm hoping.
Thank you very much. I think been very thorough, and you've certainly been drilled. So thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you. Oh, Richmond one. I should be interested in yours. So would you like to come with something?
Thank you. Again, the report, you should have received it. We've seen a decrease in the Richmond area, Leyburn area of our ASB, but if an increase in the Catterick Garrison area, which is around the sort of Colburn ward, where we've done a lot of work with the Community Safety Hub to identify young people who are involved in antisocial behaviour and divert those using some civil powers. We have put some I did put a dispersal in one weekend, but we put it all over social media, and we didn't need to use that on any individuals. So we have seen a decrease in that, and I'm pleased to say we've seen a decrease in issues in the nighttime economy on a Friday, Saturday night through some close work with, again, with the Community Safety Hub. We created a triangle to target antisocial behaviour in the nighttime economy, working with the Community Alcohol Partnership, and very good links with the Royal Military Police as well, so we can work with those to reduce it. Similar to Inspector Sadler, we've had Operation Passage running in the Dales to target rural theft of vehicles and plant machinery. We've seen a decrease in that through work, again, with Community Safety Hub, doing some target hardening, crime prevention, but also targeting those offenders who have been coming over cross-border from other forces, and working with those other forces to target those offenders. And yeah, with the falls, we've had a perfect storm with Richmond Falls, of having the fair, the market, and having which resulted in no parking, which created some issues down at the falls, but we've got plans in place to solve that, and we now have staffing on bank holiday weekends from the neighbourhood policing team to look at that antisocial behaviour.
So we're working with highways a lot more and drag them into the to the cause, because the antisocial behaviour was quite low, isn't it? It's more around the parking and the access to the falls. So hopefully, I mean, it's not going to be a now solution, but over the 7 hotspot locations that we've got in my areas, Craven, Richmond and Northallerton, looking at Osmotherley, Grassington and the likes, as well as Richmond, they're looking at deploying double red lines, which will be a helpful thing, particularly down Riverside Road. So that's definitely something that they're taking forward, but obviously, you know, they've got to go through their processes with that. In Richmond, we're looking at immediately to solve it, a temporary loading ban. I should know because I'm a driver, but I did have to ask highways what it all meant. But yeah, check your highway code if you're not sure. But yeah, the double red lines are going to go in there, which will be a really good solution.
Oh, well, thank you. I will have to get the highway code out. I don't think I've ever come across double red lines. So we'll have to make sure we're legal, won't we? Thank you very much. Have any questions on the Richmond? I think it's what I said earlier. We rely a lot on other things because we haven't CCTV. And I know they've done a lot of work at the Aysgarth Falls, the falls at Richmond. And when we had that carry on up Keld a long time ago. So the work you do up there, especially in the summer months, is excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Joe, like to take a seat down there. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a good session, actually. Right, we'll move on to agenda item 10, which is the update on progress of local town investment plan. And it's been a very, you've wrote a very good report here, Joe. So I think unless you've anything specific to say, we could nearly go on to questions. But have you anything specific to add to your report?
Thank you very much, Chair. No, if you want to jump straight to questions, I'm very happy with that.
Thank you. Has anybody any questions regarding the local plan investment plan? Well, I will just put in to say we've made a good start on it because all these things, when they're new, take a little bit of working through. I see Richmond's got really on now and they're really getting together properly and getting their plans put in place. I know Hawes had. It was very important to get people on board, and it isn't easy when you're introducing something new like this. But one of the things I keep emphasising, and that is we need help to get Hawes booming again after COVID, and we know what damage that did to the tourism that we've had. But I think what is important, if we get the Garsdale to Hawes cycle walking sort of path, if we get that, we certainly need to make sure we've got Hawes in a good place to welcome everybody and make it right for tourism. So on that basis, I think doing this work early and helping Hawes to become back to the tourist hub it used to be pre-COVID would be absolutely spot on and giving us this little bit of time, because we know it's going to take quite a long time before the Hawes to Garsdale to Hawes cycling route is ever put together. I'm sure you'll agree with me there, Joe.
Yeah, 100%. We're working quite closely with our tourism colleagues, and that new cycle and walking route will be a really good thing, not just for Hawes but across a wider part of the Dales as well. And it's on the Hawes draft. It's not quite a draft plan yet, but that kind of it's in the priority list for Hawes, and we'll be including that as we go forward. A proper Yorkshire welcome is one of the kind of key phrases we keep throwing around, and that applies very much to this sort of project.
Thank you. Has anybody else any questions? Laban are just sort of getting just starting, literally.
Yes, yeah, Laban, we're looking at, I think it's actually this week, we start the full consultation for, engagement for the community with drop-in events at the middle of July. And my team and the localities team are involved in those. We have actually done the school engagement already for Laban. That took place, actually it's taking place this week and the end of last week. And we're looking at July 27 for a completion in Laban. I don't really have that much other information about Laban, I'm afraid. We're right at the start.
Well, there is one good thing, and that is you can get the experience of what happened in Richmond and Hawes. So every time you go to somewhere else, you've got more experience at what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, Richmond's been a little bit of a guinea pig all the way through, and we've definitely been learning as we go. But if we can get it right in Richmond, I think we're in quite a strong place now. We can actually build on that, exactly as you say, and do even better everywhere else. So that's really good.
Thank you. Bryn?
Hi, Joe. Thanks for coming in your report. Yeah, I'm a Stokesley member, so looking forward to welcoming you to Stokesley Town Council shortly. One thing I would like to emphasise in town investment plans is the pull of the local market towns to the local surrounding areas, not just the visitor economy. We have a significant large conurbation just a few miles away from us to the north. And one of the hindrances we have is parking. It would be good to take that into account when you're doing your town investment plan. If we want to increase footfall on High Street, more people use, because of the lack of public transport, more people use cars, and we have a pinch point called car parks. Thank you.
Yeah, parking's a really consistent theme we've seen across the whole of North Yorkshire. And sometimes that's because we've got very historic streets that weren't designed for modern cars. And sometimes that's a broader range of geographical challenges. And we're working really closely with the parking team and the highways team to try and resolve some of those. So in Richmond, kind of because it's just ahead of everywhere else, we've already identified 150 extra spaces we can bring online over the next 5 to 10 years. That's the sort of thing that these plans are enabling us to do. And so hopefully we can replicate that in Stokesley. The parking team have been really good and really just on it, trying to work this out. So yeah, Stokesley's starting in September, isn't it? So yeah, when we get to it, I think it'll be really good. But yeah, the kind of keyword in the report that originally went about town investment plans is that word hinterland. And so we're not just focused on town centres. That's our primary ambition, to improve town centres. But it's not just about those. It's about considering that hinterland as well, and how towns can best serve their local areas.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to you in July.
Has anybody any more questions for Joe? I'm certain we're going to have you back as it goes on, because this is going to be an ongoing thing, and important, you know, to see that it gets to the end product, or if ever there's an end product, because the idea is that communities take these on board and run with them. So there probably never is an end product. But thank you very much, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We now have just an update from previous meeting. I would start with the 2.2 transport to work study. You'll have seen a letter that came from David Scaith, the mayor, quite early on. As you know, we've kept sending the feasibility study and we've been writing to him. But I actually was in a position to have a conversation with him a fortnight ago. So, well, as soon as I saw him, I thought, yeah, this is perfect. Let me just get hold of the mayor. Anyway, the basic point is that he's now doing, as we know, the local transport plan is going out for consultation very shortly, actually. I haven't just got a date for it. And so, actually, I've got here July the 23rd, but I'm not sure why I've got that written down. But the point is that we're now, and he did say, is the feasibility study, which we'll send again, and we'll also put something in. And I want to ask if the committee will allow Nikki and myself to work with what we put into the consultation based on the feasibility study we did. And I hope that would be all right by everybody. Now, the point is that everybody, individuals, can put into this consultation. So anybody, any of the committee who want to make representation can do so. But I will, that's what, I certainly had the conversation with the mayor, and that was the idea, that this would go into the local transport plan. Caroline?
I believe that there is going to be a consultation in Northallerton. I haven't got a date for it as yet, but that was, they came to a meeting, I think it was of the hubs in here in Northallerton, and they were wanting to sort of speak to local groups and get as much information as they could. So there will be other consultations in the towns.
Thank you for that, Caroline, because this is what we do. We did this report, the committee spent their money on it. It's important that we have the information from that feasibility study to go into this local transport plan. I still maintain the same point. You can't get from Horse to Laban without swapping three different buses. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. I must admit the Harbours people are really good. They know how to get things, their voices heard. And I think The only thing for me, which I will put in there, we've got a new medical access that hasn't got bus connectivity from the Dales and for our surrounding areas. So I'd like to see that mentioned quite strongly in anything we do. We've got services that need accesses from all over our place now because of that new health centre that's coming to Catford House. That's key to. Wasn't in. I don't think it was in that report because it wasn't quite there, but it needs to be shouted from the rooftops that our residents in rural areas need to access our health facilities that are about by public transport. But thank you. I will engage with that. But I'd say again that Harbus have a really strong voice to do some really great work. Thank you.
Kevin, if you have anything specific like that, but we are going to be feeding into this because it'll be before the next meeting in September. If you could send that to Nikki, we will put it amongst our.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Moving on from this, I think we've already heard from Rishi, and then we're talking here about the mayor's update. Has been said, you've got certain things, you've had the letter and what I've just said now. Nikki, have you anything to say?
So thank you, Chair. It was just with regard to the mayor's update, and this is an issue that's raised its head repeatedly at more than this area committee about contact and updates from the mayor to the area committee, and I think we can take that's included in today's papers as his sort of final word on the topic, just to make members clearly aware. Thank you.
We'll cover that. It's coming to the next meeting when we come to that item. Has anybody any questions on the updates? No. So we'll move on to work programme. You take that, please, because I've got to find.
Thank you, Chair. So there's the information items that members have requested in our mid-cycle briefing. So if anybody would like anything more in depth from any of those, please let me know. Also, apparently there was a recent member briefing on SIL projects. I have the slides and information used that briefing. So if anybody didn't attend and would like a copy, please let me know again. And also the Harrogate and Knaresborough Area Committee received an informal briefing on street works, and I've got the information shared at that meeting. There's some information specific to parish councils and like overarching information. Again, if members would like that, shall I circulate that to all? Yeah, thank you. That's all. Thanks, Chair.
So we go on to really anything. Has anybody got anything they want to add on to the work programme for the next meeting? You do realise, of course, that we have got the mayor that day, and we're asking Pacific that we want something in writing, because we don't just want somebody continuously talking. We want a small report in writing from the mayor, and then we can ask questions, because I think it is basically for asking questions of the mayor, and we're going to inform him of that.
So I will be sending out an email to members. I just didn't want to do it. Sorry, didn't want to do it too soon. There'll be, a deadline to submit questions to his office. So I'll be sending an email out shortly to everyone to gather that information back. Thank you.
So, has anybody anything to say on that? If not, I'll move on to nothing really. Oh, was I supposed to give an update about?
You said you wanted to mention Reith.
Well, yes, I wanted just to mention the Reith Medical Centre, because it came after we had just actually very soon after our March meeting. And Rishi mentioned we've got a branch surgery. It is happening, but I think the main point I would say now is that it will take, these next 6 months will be very important, and there'll be a lot of, there'll be teething problems, because to just walk in and start like that with only a matter of weeks to put something in place. But we are fortunate that we have the primary health care network helping. But I think that we're also concerned that what happened at Reith, we must not allow to happen anywhere else, because having only 8 weeks to do something like this, you just can't happen. And so I know that here at North Yorkshire Council, and I know the the scrutiny of health is very much on that, and they are wanting to make sure that across the whole of North Yorkshire we don't have this situation, which is why it's going to be looked into. I think the seminar next week, I think, is mentioning it. We've managed to find a solution in Reeth. We do not want to see this happening anywhere else. So I don't need to explain Reeth. I'm sure you've seen it all, and just pleased like I am that we have got a branch surgery. As you know, there is various information also in your pack that we aren't actually discussing. It's for your information. But if anybody wants to have anything from that going through to our next meeting, we can put it on the work programme, or you can send anything in to Nikki and she can always relate back to those that have put this report in. Angus.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't know whether this is appropriate or not, but as members certainly will be aware, I've been having rants and raves about staffing in planning. As we've got Fiona Hunter here, head of planning, I just wondered if it was possible to have a brief update. Are things any better? Or that's one thing I just want to raise. The other thing is, when we were discussing the Hope Moor business, you said, Chair, that North Yorkshire Council have made representations on the scoping report, the one that closes tomorrow. Is it possible, Nikki, could I have a copy of what has been submitted, please?
I haven't had it. I haven't seen it. I just, as you know, I've been asking for this for the last 2 weeks. And so I just received a message. I think it was 7:15 on Thursday night to say that they have put representation in. So it's the planning. What we can do is we can see if we can get hold of that, and then we'll circulate it, because this is to the scoping. I mean, this isn't actually making your view, what you think of the actual application. It is just asking for what they want the inspector to scope that he needs to look at before he makes the decision. So it is, so that's what they've made representations on the scoping.
Yeah, I entirely agree, and I fully appreciate what you're saying, but this is a very important piece of information that really I think we should have, if at all possible.
I agree, it is vital, and that's why we didn't get it. I didn't even, because I didn't have it when I came down to the meeting on Thursday, because it would be, I was driving down. But the important thing was, it was important that North Yorkshire Council did put into the scoping report, and it was also, and that's why it wasn't something that we could done quickly, because it was a very important document. So it has taken them a couple of weeks to put this together, but we will get hold of it and send it out to everybody. Bryn.
Thank you, Chair. I realise 13C is for information only, the annual report. However, it would be useful to have the correct map at the front of it. We brought this up before, I think. So
that is entirely my fault, and I'm very, very sorry. I do apologise for that.
So when it's issued properly, I think we should have the right map.
I do apologise.
Sorry, just trying to press you, Chair, but we are going to have the can we have the update from the owners of Dundas now? Brief update.
Oh, yes, certainly, Fiona.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So Fiona Hunter, Development Management Team Manager, covering the Richmond Yorks area. Since the start of this calendar year, we've had 2 new principal planners join us, Elizabeth Walker in January, and then a chap called Andrew Softly about 2 weeks ago. We also had a senior planner join us in December, all covering this area. They've recently been out to interview, and in terms of additional staff that they are looking to secure for our area, they want an additional career grade planning officer. At that point, we might potentially have the perfect number of staff for the work at hand, although I think we'd need to work as a team for a period of time to check that everyone's getting their applications promptly. they are potentially exploring whether they could get some additional resource at my level, so at team manager level, to cover the Hambleton area, just because we do have quite a high level of applications received, pre-application, etc. So that's something they're exploring in terms of maybe a contract member of staff or a permanent member of staff. Again, they went out to interview. Unfortunately, my team managers meeting is this afternoon, so at that meeting I'll find out what we got in terms of applicants, but we're definitely moving in a very positive direction with staff coverage. I'm anticipating, I think speed of applications being determined has significantly improved. I think if you ask me again in a few months, I'll be able to say that people are consistently getting applications in the statutory period. So I'll be happy to come back later on in the year to give you another update on that. I do know a little bit about the wind farm that has been mentioned today. So if you had any specific questions, I might be able to answer those. Or if you wanted to know what North Yorkshire Council's procedure is in terms of how we deal with NSIPs, I'd be happy to cover that. I'll let members clarify if they want that information or not.
Well, I think that would be, considering I was trying to say it myself, I think it'd be a good idea if you could just give us the procedure, because we know that it's going to the inspector. We know that he or she will be making, because we don't know who it's going to be. So it'd be better if you could explain that to us.
So at the moment in time, it's set out in our constitution, and that says that the Strategic Planning Committee is responsible for responses as a statutory consultee to nationally significant infrastructure projects for which a development consent order is being sought under the Planning Act 2008. So that means, although we're not the determining authority, we're a really important consultee, and we would need to go as development management officers to strategic committee with a report and seek their permission to act on their behalf. And, you know, depending on level of interest, complexity, potential harm, the report would be different. And yeah, what the local authority would need to do is prepare a local impact report, so similar to a planning committee report, but it's as the consultee rather than the decision maker, and would probably focus on aspects that are relevant to our authority's area, although there'd be nothing to touch us, stop us commenting on the impacts to the national park or the adjacent area of outstanding natural beauty. There's also a statement of common ground, which is similar to an appeal inquiry. And we also get to comment on the draft development consent order. Whether or not we're supporting or we're objecting, we can still get involved with that in case it is granted. And also any further representations on behalf of North Yorkshire Council. So what typically happens is DM officers say, right, this is our assessment. We think we should proceed in this manner, and then the strategic committee get to vote on whether they agree with officers. So that's what will happen when we actually get the development. Once the application for the development consent order is actually submitted, in this predetermination stage, we don't actually have anything in the constitution, and therefore officers are using their professional judgment about how to proceed. So, for example, the scoping, the environmental impact assessment scoping request, we only had 4 weeks to look at that, so we would not have been able to prepare a report and bring it to strategic committee for a minded to decision. So that has been prepared and submitted last Thursday to the Planning Inspectorate. And we also have been working with the adjacent National Parks Authority, Durham County Council, and also the AONB Authority group as well, so that we've sort of seen what they prepared, and we've all submitted our own separately. And then we're going to be working with the Parks Authority, so we're going to go on a site visit this Thursday with the Parks Authority officer to go and see viewpoints that they consider to be particularly sensitive, and then we'll do the same from our end. So yeah, lots of work underway, and then later on in the week there's also a meeting, an internal meeting with more senior managers than myself, and some of the high level council members and leaders of the council going to meet and talk about how they're wanting to deal with it, separate to development management more holistically as a council. So again, that meeting's yet to take place. I won't be able to advise you. Just in terms of when we think they're going to submit the application, according to their website, they're currently looking at, my notes. They are currently planning to submit mid 2027. So we're about a year away, but that does mean we've got a year to sort of have a think about, you know, key viewpoints, any key concerns, any mitigation, etc.
Thank you. Thank you. What I think is that if you could, you know, keep this particular committee up, you know, and update as we go along of what is happening, because it does affect very much. If there's going to be any effect at all, maybe no effect, but if there's going to be any effect of it, it will be this ACC literally that is covered by it. So that would be very good, and that was very good to come with that. Thank you very much. Angus.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Fiona. That was good to hear. I just want to go back to the staffing, which it sounds as though things we've turned a corner. Is that fair comment? That's number 1 point. And number 2 point, I notice in a report, I haven't got it in front of me, but it's now 14 days for validation on average within Richmond, 15 days in Hambleton, validation of new applications. That presumably is 14 working days, is it? And I think the target is 3 working days. So we still have a long way to go on that, by the looks of things. But I'm pleased to see it's getting better.
I haven't done a comparative review. I've looked at how long we've taken to determine applications, how many EOTs we did, say, 2 years ago versus now. But just from somebody signing off allocating, it does seem to be, I'd say, significantly better. The case of people waiting maybe multiple months or over a year for a decision is significantly less. And lots of people are getting decisions with, say, 8 weeks or shortly afterwards with an EOT. In terms of validation, we have an Excel spreadsheet that planning operations log how long it's taking. Unfortunately, it does fluctuate quite a lot, so it can often just be 5 working days. We don't have an internal target. I think an internal target will be set up next calendar year, because we're moving the Richmondshire planning software and the Hambleton planning software onto the North Yorkshire Council central software. That is going to cause temporary validation delays. We're currently moving the Hambleton system right now. So we're getting new applications on the central system. We still got the old applications on the old system. So unfortunately, it will take longer to validate for a few weeks. And then by August, September, we'll be catching up. Richmondshire, we're a little bit more sensitive because it was a smaller local planning authority. We didn't have as many planning operations staff. So if somebody takes annual leave, etc., it can slow down validation, but they have a new team manager that's looking into that. So again, I think it's just going to be a little bit of a slower summer, and then we should be really, the Hambleton system, we're going to be in a great place come September, and the same will occur for Richmond, but that will be January, because they're the next in line rather than happening right now.
Thank you very much. I think.
Thanks, Fiona.
Is that everything, Angus? I think. Oh, very quick, because we've nearly got the end now.
Just a quick one. Thanks, Fiona. You've talked about planning officers. What about enforcement officers? Are we up to spec with them? We've got the right numbers?
I think I did see a planning enforcement officer job being advertised, but unfortunately I'm not in the planning enforcement team, and whilst I do get updates on policy and enforcement, they're not regular enough for me to give you an informed position, sorry. But we certainly could send someone to the next meeting.
It would be useful for us to ask that question, because we have issues with planning enforcement and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we could look into that for next time. Peter.
Can I move us back to agenda item 13B, which was the report on libraries, which provided an overview of the services. This service is something that's really valued by our community members. This report didn't provide me with all the information that I wanted, particularly around the usage of libraries. Now, Councillor Dickinson and I were in the library in Northampton on Saturday, which gave us an opportunity to question the usage. And I was surprised at the level of usage we've got in Northampton, with over 1,000 visits per week. pub. That's approaching 4,000 visits within a calendar month. I would welcome this report coming back to this committee with an officer present where we can have a bit more of a deep dive into this service. And I'm particularly interested in the usage of this service by individual libraries.
Thank you, Peter. Well, that's what the idea is, to have a look at it, and then if anybody else wants it, so we will add that on to.
Did you want a sort of refreshed report, Councillor Buckerton, or just that report with an officer?
The bit I'm interested in is the public usage of it. Therefore, this report can have additional information about football on the various libraries. I think that would be something that's of interest to the committee. And an officer who can talk to the report and answer questions.
We will do that. I mean, that's the whole idea of just sometimes having the reports in for people to read, and then if there's anything else needed, then we'll fetch it back at a later date. And I quite agree with Councillor Griffiths. I do think we do need to be very watchful that we have enough enforcement officers because I know the importance at the moment. I have one in Hudswell, as you've read about, no doubt, in the paper, and we do, which they're doing the job, is our enforcement officers are doing their job, but if we don't have them, they can't. So thank you very much. It's been an interesting meeting, but it's quite a long one. I always like to think 2 hours is absolute ample. John, I'll let you. Yeah, we're very aware. Unfortunately, Nikki covers that area, you see, so it's easy for just to press the wrong button, I think. But thank you. We will make sure we get the proper plan. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I'll just find out what Joe's up to.